Alright, so here we are, finally doing the VOD review that I said I would do almost a week ago now. And I have it started here so that I can quickly look at the team comp before we actually get into the match. There's not actually too much to dissect here. You guys are running a dive comp, but instead of Genji Tracer, you have a Widowmaker and Soldier, which is totally acceptable. Oh, and instead of Lucio, you have Mercy, but to be honest, Mercy Zen is kind of the support meta right now. Alright, let's just get right into it.
I can't see anything.
Let's turn it up a little. Actually, no. That's a bad idea. Unfortunately, I can't hear Lyris.
Do that right side strat.
Grab left
I
side.
have my
grab
heal
left
on Widow for right now.
These are good callouts so far.
I lost
Yeah.
her.
Everyone,
Soldier's
go
top
up the
window.
stairs. Come on, back,
Alright,
back,
this
back,
is
back,
really,
back,
really
back.
good. This is really, really good. You have someone, Worry Pup, making a call. You know, if he's your designated shot caller, then perfect. He's doing his job here. He's saying, everybody, come to these back stairs. And that's good. That means he's got some sort of plan, and you should all be following him.
Back, back. Up the stairs.
Someone's discorded, but I didn't check who.
Now, Cater Tot did not follow you guys. Or if she did, she's being very slow about it. She should have come up here with the rest of the team. Mango, he has his grappling hook available, so he can get up there at a moment's notice. I'm not very worried about him. Widow kind of does her own thing anyways. Either way, Mango has gotten a pick, which is fantastic. This is obviously a go sign to get aggressive.
Got one.
Nice.
Go, go, go.
Discorded.
Diamond.
On the Ryan's one. Diva coming back.
Diva coming for me.
Not dead. She's
Ryan
getting killed by the
discorded.
Anna the whole
I
time.
D-back the Diva.
Anna and Junkrat
Baby
behind the
Diva.
Ryan.
So that's something I want to dissect. What just happened there? You saw that you had a pick and that it was time to get aggressive, which is good. However, Pores,
Go, go, go.
when you jump in, you call that you're diving, which is fine, but you need to pick a dive target. You can't just jump into the middle of the enemy team as a Winston. That's how you get yourself melted and killed immediately, which does happen, although, to be honest, I'm surprised it takes as long as it does. Worry Pup, this is a very good job of following your Winston in and supporting him.
On the
I think that's part of the reason that Pores lasted as long as he did.
Diva coming for
But, you know, you can see you jumped basically onto their tanks when you ideally want to be brawling in their backline. So, you know, right here you're still messing around with their Reinhardt when you should have jumped maybe back here onto their Zen. I think their Zen's back. No, not their Zen. Their second support should be somewhere behind the Reinhardt. That's where you really want to be. And if that means taking an extra few seconds to reposition and get closer to really make that jump, then you should have done that. Because instead, this is a very poor initiation off of you, Pores. You know, you jump in
Not dead.
and you don't have an impact. You basically get yourself killed. Now, luckily, the enemy Diva makes a horrible misplay here and gets super, super aggressive. I'm not sure what she was doing back there. You guys capitalize on that. You take her out. That's perfect. You are going to be a man up for the next fight.
I got junk thrown.
I can't get high ground for some reason.
Ah, shit. I'm slept.
Junkrat.
Junkrat left
Run
side.
him, run him.
Ryan just go okay him.
Again, Mango's got a pick. This is perfect. Time to get aggressive.
Okay him.
He's dead.
Anna is
Pores gets a nice kill on the Junkrat. That's just overall good work.
You see soldier?
There's a soldier up there. I'm slept.
Anna in the hotel. Anna in the hotel. She got this one on.
Zenyatta discorded.
Diva
Is Anna
one.
by herself right here?
Anna discorded. Soldier discorded.
Left, so. Yep.
You mechanically won the fight. It was a 4v6, so you had an advantage, but you won mechanically. They had very, very... Actually, I don't think the other team had any target focus whatsoever for that fight. And you guys did. You know, you established point control, and they failed to make an actual push. They just kind of trickled into you. So it was partly a successful push because the enemy made misplays rather than you guys making plays, except for Mango getting the first shot on the Zenyatta, which put them on their back legs at the beginning.
Soldier backed out.
I missed my shot because I'm a beat.
So you've captured the point, and you know that at a bare minimum, at least their Reinhardt got back spawned. Probably at least one more person did. So now both of your tanks should be running forward, probably Soldier and Mercy too, and trying to take as much of streets as possible. You know, get free stagger kills onto as many people as you can find. The more space you can claim, the easier it'll be to push the cart through streets. Let's see if you do that.
Hey, Rando.
Good kill, Bill.
Yep.
Yeah, the tanks and at least one of the DPS should be pushing up, like... Here, let me see if we can get a better angle. Should have pushed up at least to about here, bare minimum, because that would keep them from holding you in the choke. I don't believe they hold you in the choke anyways, but it's, you know, it's good practices.
What are all the other ults coming up at? Alright, we'll have trance too.
This is really, really good. You're asking what ults are coming up, and potentially from here you could make a plan to say what ults are we going to use to initiate the next fight. And I pre-watched the video, so I know that is actually where this next push goes wrong. You don't decide how to initiate the next fight, and you let the enemy team initiate onto you. I'll show you.
Two. Sweet. Here's up here. They're still on the right.
Just for the case of making a point, now would be a perfect time to initiate. I don't actually remember exactly what ults you have, but since you have trance, you could send the Winston into the back line. And by the way, you should know that they're going to be coming up on ults now. You might not know exactly what ults, but you should be aware of it, so you should be specifying that you're going to use trance for something. But you could dive the Winston in, I would say, right behind the Reinhardt to start contesting the space. If he has Shatter, what he would likely do then, or what he might do then is he might try to shatter the Winston into the barrier, or if not, at the very least, he's got to wait for the barrier to drop before he can shatter.
I have trans.
You know, I didn't explain that very well. Let me take that another give that another shot now that I can see your ults. So what I would do to initiate this fight is I would have the Winston jump in right behind the Reinhardt, maybe even Primal Rage to start pushing him back, and keeping in mind, in hindsight, we know after this fight that he has Earth Shatter. You should expect him to have Earth Shatter at this point, since it's been a few minutes since the game started, and he did quite a bit of brawling early on. But aside from that, Zenyatta, actually, if you press Q, as you hear the verbal warning from the enemy Reinhardt shattering, you can actually get your trance out and save your whole team from the shatter, basically, by giving them the transcendence healing. So what I would do is I would basically commit trance and primal rage to this fight. And that's what I would do for the ult fight. I would have Pors jump in to initiate the fight and start messing with the enemy Reinhardt. Use Primal Rage if he has to. And then I would have Cater Tot use Trance as, you know, a support ult to stop the enemy from making plays.
Discorded, yeah.
If he visors, I'm gonna jump up and Q on him. That Ana's weak. Ana's super weak. I'm dead.
Okay, we'll get to that Valk in a second. I don't like that Valk.
Even discorded, yeah.
So right here, you know, instead of initiating like I had said would be a good idea, Pors kind of walks up to the front line and wastes his bubble. This is not a good bubble placement. You want to use your bubble to either body block for your team, like a Reinhardt shield in dire circumstances, or to isolate people in the enemy team from their teammates. So, as an example of that, you could, say, jump in between the Reinhardt and the enemy healers so that they would have a harder time getting to the Reinhardt to heal him, as would have been the case if you had initiated like I suggested before. But instead, you place your bubble here very preemptively. They have plenty of time to break it before putting their own plan into action, which is apparently to Nano Shatter. I have a feeling on their side that the Diva Bomb wasn't called for because it seems a little bit unnecessary. But it works out.
If he visors, I'm gonna jump up and Q on him. That Ana's weak. Ana's super weak. I'm dead.
But see, the problem there was that you didn't initiate, and you gave them an opening to initiate into you. And they had a very clean ult fight. They used too many ults, in my opinion, but they got a clear team fight win for free because you let them initiate with ults. Now, this Valk is it could be good if you are yelling to your team, no guys, get back in there, keep fighting. But I don't see Lyra speaking in the voice chat right now.
Genji now,
Yeah, so actually this is a waste of Valk, and you're just kind of feeding the enemy team ult charge right now.
Discorded.
Because the rest of the team was starting to disengage when you used Valk. If you had called for them to keep fighting, it would have been fine.
Back.
I'm taking care of you.
Small tip for Mercy. When you are currently in Valkyrie and you see that your team has taken damage and you're very clearly in between fights, try to actually not heal them if you're coming to the end of Valk, because that means as soon as you come out of Valk, you can heal them up and get free ult charge to get your next Valk. So for instance here, you healed Filth by about half his health while still in Valk. If you had waited, you get an extra 5 or 6% ult charge. It's small but noteworthy.
Probably one more.
I have Visor. When do we want to use?
Mine discorded, I think. No.
You want me to try and knock the Reinhardt while you visor the rest?
You can damage boost a baby diva to help her get her mech back faster.
Visor the rest, or with the Q?
I'm so scared of fat fingering my ult again. It's not even funny.
Just work on the.
Also, damage boosting mech diva is a really good way to break the enemy Reinhardt's shield.
Just work on the Rhine shield. We'll get it down.
Soldier discorded up top. Ryan discorded.
I'm not gonna get anything with this Anna.
Okay, I'm so.
Soldier before I got dropped.
If anybody saw
that
that,
another
saw
nano?
nothing, and we're gonna pretend that it didn't.
Yeah, well, she's been healing the Rhine the whole time
Yeah.
while we're in him.
So I would like to back that up because that looks like a
If any-
failed push.
Anything with this Anna.
Ryan discorded
Down.
again. It's not
So,
even funny.
Filth
Work on the right
seems to
shield.
be going
We'll
up
get it
around
down.
for a
Soldier
flank,
discorded
which
up
is
top.
fine.
Ryan discorded.
In fact, he actually manages to scare the Zenyatta's Transcendence out. That's a really, really good play. However, what you guys do afterwards is not good. So Filth, instead of chasing this now that the Transcendence is out, just turn around, sprint back, and come up here. Because obviously you're not going to get anything done with the Transcendence out. You've baited the Transcendence out. You just tricked them into using an ult for nothing. So just run away now. You got value out of that flank. And the rest of you should all be disengaging. You don't want to risk fighting into even 3 seconds worth of Transcendence healing. So if you had a Lucio out, you would have been calling like disengage, speed boost us out of here. We don't want to be here anymore. Wait for it to end, then you can dive back in and use your own ults because they don't have the trance now to stop it.
I'm not gonna get anything with this Anna.
Okay, I'm so.
Soldier before I got dropped.
That is a good Primal Rage, by the way, Pors. That was a very good Primal Rage. You saw that the Reinhardt had just shattered your team. It was a really good use of Primal Rage to keep the Reinhardt away.
If anybody saw
that another
saw
nano?
nothing, and we're gonna pretend that it didn't.
Yeah, well, she's been healing the Rhine the whole time
Yeah.
while we're in him.
Genji discorded.
Let's get you
He's
back.
one.
Yep, that looks good.
But he's got the mega.
So right now, the Reinhardt is trying to get aggressive and take space from you. You should have at least Winston jump off of cooldown, so do what I suggested earlier. You can discord the Rein now, get the Winston in just behind Reinhardt, place the bubble down so that he's cut off from at least one of his healers, Ana, and start working on the Reinhardt. You should be able to punish him for getting aggressive here. I don't believe he has the healing to support himself.
Hey, he's overextended.
Perfect.
Alright.
Nice, nice,
As
nice.
your visor.
Come on.
Don't heal people who are anti-healed. You can damage boost them if you want to keep pocketing them, because they can still get value out of damage boost, obviously. But holding left click on someone who's anti-healed is just it's a waste of time. You could be getting value, and you're not.
Come on, Diva. Diva's low.
Zen's low.
Diva demeched. We're not doing this with very many ults, which is kind of nice.
Casting a healing spell.
I completely blew my ult.
Actually, I wanted to quickly dissect why you guys won that fight.
There. But he's got the mega.
So you can see the Reinhardt gets aggressive. You punish him for it pretty
As your
well.
visor.
Come on.
This diva on the enemy team is incredibly out of position. This is horrible, horrible positioning off of the enemy diva. That's why you won this fight. Her healers are alone back here. The diva was their only protection, and she just went up here alone on this random flank that isn't going to get anything done. That leaves her inaccessible to her healers and vice versa.
Come on, Diva.
So Winston dives their supports, Filth gets a nice helix onto the Ana, and you can roll from there. So that particular push was made out of the enemy team's misplays, not your
Doing
plays.
very many ults, which is kind of nice.
That's why you didn't use many ults, because the enemy team messed up.
My ult.
Run Discord it.
Oh, by himself.
This would be another one of those occasions where I would say damage boost the diva to help the shield break, scare him off a little bit.
Oh, got him.
Oh,
It's... How did Mango die to that? Was he... Huh, I guess he died right before the trance got to him. That's unfortunate. Either way, you guys are in a really, really good position right now because they've used both of their DPS ults and you've used trance to block both of them. That is insane value out of a Transcendence.
oh, you left me.
That's a good res too.
Oh, you shouldn't have rescued.
She Discord it.
Angela? There you go.
On
Two
you.
supports and a diva.
In Winston's shield.
That's unfortunate. I actually... So here's
Two
something.
supports and a diva.
She
uh,
Discord it.
Angela? There you go.
In general, as a Mercy, you want to be spending a lot of time in and amongst your tanks. That's not different when you're running a dive comp like you are now. There's relative safety in being with your tanks because your tanks are who's going to protect you for the most part as a Mercy. So right now, even before this Diva Bomb gets launched, I would have actually flown into this bubble and started pocketing the Winston, like maybe even damage boosting the Winston, mostly because you know Worry Pup is safely behind this bubble right now, but your Winston, he might need healing in a second, and if he doesn't, the damage boost would be really, really helpful right now. And just as it turns out, being inside this bubble with the Winston, like I had suggested, would have actually kept you safe from this Diva Bomb. Aside from that, you got caught on the map geometry, I noticed. You actually probably could have looped that if you had hidden the subway.
On
Two
you.
supports and a diva.
In Winston's shield.
Yeah, let me
David discorded.
Diva demected.
I can get on you.
It all works out because you capped the point, though.
Hey, I got my heal on
They
you.
went with it. Here, let me go Genji.
Oh, David's so
My
low.
holding on.
I'm on you, I'm on you.
Or dare I even
Winston,
try the
or
two?
not, sorry,
Yes.
Reinhardt discorded. I'm down.
In case you couldn't tell, this is when you disengage. Let's just go back and count how many ults they used, because I looked away from my screen for a second.
Here, let me go Genji.
Oh, David's so
My
low.
holding on.
I'm on you, I'm on you.
Or dare I even
Winston,
try the
or
two?
not, sorry,
Yes.
Reinhardt
That's one.
discorded. I'm down.
That's two. Yeah, Mango's gonna get a...
Oh, we
that.
good. I mean, we got.
This is a very, very small thing. This is a very, very small thing. If you already have ult and you know you're not going to get a kill on someone, it's actually best to not shoot at them because you're feeding the enemy healer's ult charge. So actually, I would not shoot at this Reinhardt right now unless you didn't have ult and were trying to build it up faster.
Got that for you anyway. We got a couple minutes.
Ah, that hurts. That res really hurts. I told you about this in person, or not in person, over text in Discord the first time I watched it. That res was entirely unnecessary, and the reason is this is a 30-second cooldown. Now, the way you can think of res is that it is negating the time it would take for that player to respawn and get back to where they need to be. Where he is, it would take him about 5 seconds to finish respawning and walk out to where he is. So you've basically used a 30-second cooldown to save 5 seconds. Now, what you want to be doing with res is saving anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds. You know, that could be rezzing someone right before a fight breaks out that might take them, 7 seconds to respawn and another 10 seconds to get back to the fight in time. That's saving like 17 seconds. That's a much better trade. 30-second cooldown for saving 17 seconds and making sure everyone is there for a fight. This is just, it's a bad res. You really wasted it there.
My servants never die. My healing spell is upon you.
You should have punished the diva too, but fuck me.
In general, Lyris, you should probably damage boost more.
The
Diva
Widow's on
discorded, I
top right
think.
there.
So again, this is right before a fight is likely going to break out, so you should call for what ults to use in this fight and how to initiate. If you have a shot caller, he should be saying, alright, so Winston, I need you to get onto their Zenyatta, and then I'm going to throw self-destruct in, or something like that. Some plan, because you can't just keep banging your head against the wall. I mean, you can, actually, but it's much less effective. You're more likely to get a successful push if you make a plan first.
Tracer discorded.
She's so weak.
Alright.
This. Right down.
Diva
Stay in
discorded.
a bubble
Diva,
so you don't get
Diva.
stunned.
I'm gonna top
Widow
him. Widow down.
discorded.
Okay. I'll have
They're
it
on the
on
left
them.
room. They're on the left room.
Baby Diva
I'm
discorded.
no healed. I'm no healed. Thank you. Thank you.
Basic.
No.
Almost have blade.
This is down. Sorry, fell.
Keep it up. Keep it up. Almost have blade.
No,
Ana low.
discorded.
Ana low.
Discord.
Discorded
Right,
and
discorded.
left. Good job.
Protect the payload.
I'm driving on top right.
Okay. This made me excited when I saw this the first time. I saw it and I was like, oh wow, that was really, really good team play. That was like really cool to watch. Because what you guys just did, and I think it was unknowingly, but what you just did was actually a very high level space management tactic. Which in effect was you pushed the enemy team into a smaller and smaller space to the point where they were so crowded they had to clump in together. Which, of course, clumping, if you think about why Graviton is so good, it forces the enemy team to stand still in a perfect little clump that a DPS ult can just wipe out. You've basically artificially created a sort of Graviton surge where you've pushed 4 members of the enemy team into this small little area that Mango was able to easily take advantage of with a Dragon Blade, just like if they were in a Graviton. So here, I'll back it up and really show it to you guys.
Down. Sorry, fell.
So we're going to use blue to say what space belongs to you guys, and red to say what space belongs to the enemy. And space management is something you guys are going to have to get used to me talking about. It is probably the most important underlying concept in how to play Overwatch tactically, and not just about clicking heads. So I'll show you here.
Keep it up. Keep it up. Almost have blade.
So right now, it's pretty clear that this space belongs to the enemy, and this space belongs to you guys. Your team can stand here without being in danger, and for the most part, the enemy team can stand here without being in danger. But Pores has just jumped in. Let's see what happens.
Ana low. Ana low.
Pores, so we have your space over here. Pores has just jumped in to the back right of the enemy team, and you'll notice that him being here, he's not even hitting anybody right now. He's just swinging his arms around this area. And you can see that everyone on the enemy team has just retreated into this area right here. So this area, all over here, is now your team's space. You've effectively surrounded them, and this is what I mean. You've forced them into a smaller little area. And the great part about this is that the Reinhardt here, he can't even turn around to deal with the Winston because you've got Worry Pup, and Worry Pup right on him. If he turns around, he's discorded. He's going to get melted right through the Ana heals. And you almost don't even need me to color on the screen anymore, because right now, the color of the barriers kind of does it for me. This is your space. You can very visually see it with the barriers. He's placed that bubble. Your DPS could sit inside it. That's the definition of your space. If you can be there without it being dangerous, that's your space. Or at the very least, it's not the enemy's space. So now that Pores has created this space, and he's pushed the enemy into this small space, Mango sees this, All right, he sees that everyone on the enemy team is clumped up together, so he goes in and he pulls out a Dragon Blade and he capitalizes on it perfectly. You can see him just dashing through them all, and there's nothing they can do because they were all standing right there. So that's a very, very cool thing that you guys did. I don't believe you did it on purpose. You can correct me if that is not the case. I would be very surprised, but very happy to hear if Pors had like planned that out or something. I doubt he did, though, unfortunately. But that's, as an example, that's a really good example of really good space management. There are a few ways it could be, ever so slightly better, but for the most part, the space management was there. For instance, you could have placed your bubble a little bit more aggressively, taken a few steps forward and placed the bubble. It might have cut the Reinhardt off from the Ana healing, which would be even more effective, something like that. You get the idea. All those micromanagerial things that can come with a lot of practice and skill and stuff the pros don't do, basically. But this is really cool. I watched this like 10 times because it was so cool to watch.
Discord.
Just started it left. Good job.
I'm driving on top.
Of course, it also helps that you were going into the fight with 2 picks, but that's just something that increases your odds of winning the fight, basically. The tactics that you employed were still very sound and probably would have worked even if the enemy team had all 6 players.
Driving on top there.
I have Transcendence Vision.
Ana low, Ana low. I haven't made it.
To nano to nano.
Ryan discorded. Or Tracer, or Lucio's right.
Get him, he's weak. Yeah.
Nice. May
May half. I don't think she has her icicle.
Get her.
This is unfortunate. This is just a reaction time thing. As soon as you see Worry Pup turn around to help you, you should immediately start resing Filth, because you should have faith that this is going to happen. He's going to put his defense matrix on you, because that is what he's doing. He's protecting his healer pretty clearly. So if you had pressed D immediately, you actually could have resed Filth.
Half. I don't think she has her icicle.
Get her.
Sorry.
Nice.
Either way, you capped the last point. You got time remaining. All in all, looking pretty good. Let's move on to your first defense.
Yes, say.
And our tank.
Choose your best.
Is they have very heavy base in the.
It looks like I pooped out can.
I try not to use it on teammates unless they're like really critical though.
Use
I heard we were
use
Unless
it
they're like
Key.
critical. Like I don't know if that makes sense because you might want it for yourself.
Oh shit.
I have a Reaper. Here.
Who's in there?
Got a reap?
Oh,
All of them
That's a
is
they're all
purple. Look
they're all
at that
anti.
purple.
Chase him.
They're bailing.
There you
They're
go.
panicked.
You're a natural made Flora.
2 anti in there.
So let's break that down a little bit more. This was actually another example of some space management that I thought looked really cool just to visualize.
Want it for yourself.
So you can see, first off, you should not be standing at the choke like that. I think it's a really bad idea on King's Row because the enemy could have a Widowmaker, and you will be surprised just how much of a sightline the Widowmaker has. It's like if you don't stay glued to this wall, you could get your head blown off, and it's not fun. But so you can see the enemy team is coming barreling through the hotel, which means this is now their space, and of course yours currently is all the space out here. You can stand out here safely. But very, very quickly, they start to push out, contest the space with their Winston. You can see it now. This is their space. This is yours. Now, this is a really, really bad initiation on the enemy Winston. This is horrific. Like, if Pors did this, I would not forgive him. I would shame him. Luckily, your initiations aren't as bad as this. But watch what he does. He jumps in, and he's very clearly not going for a target. He's jumping into the center of your team. It's so bad. He dies before he even hits the ground. I mean, look at this. And then, of course, immediately, with a good anti-nade from Catertot. Just had to double check her name. Still getting used to your years and names. You've got 2 picks now. So you have Pores move in. He places a bubble down here to finally cement the fact that this is all your space again. Currently, the space in the hotel is still the enemy's, but you're pushing them back because you have man advantage. So you can really see the evolution, like the push of war, basically, of space management in Overwatch. It's really cool.
2 anti in there.
Get in.
Yeah, the main reason that push from the other team failed was because their Winston had just a horrible initiation. It was really like ghastly. Beyond that, you beat them in a 4v6.
The D-Max.
Nice D-Mac. Nice D-Mac.
You could have left the D.Va out of mech. I see you're going for a snowball play here, but I actually would have chosen to back up to the point and just hide behind the sightlines so that the D.Va can't get her mech back without initiating the team fight, and that would put them at a severe disadvantage for the next fight.
You might be getting a
I'm
bit
with
too
you.
aggressive.
I'm with you.
Let's go, let's go.
I bomb.
Yeah, see, your snowball hasn't really paid off. You basically gave the D.Va her mech back for free. Almost for free. You got 150 damage worth of ult charge for it, but that's... I would rather have the enemy D.Va coming in without a mech for the next fight than like 10% ult charge for self-destruct.
Reset again.
I'm taking care of you.
I'll be high ground to see if they come here.
I keep watching their upper window to make sure something doesn't come out of it.
They
Tracer
went to a
down.
Ryan.
Oh, sorry.
That was a really good sleep.
Panic I saw.
I have nano.
I have bomb.
I almost got that
Fantastic,
too. I'm gonna
man.
get it as soon as I get it.
D.Va slept.
I'm knocking around, or so she doesn't kill her guys.
Oh. Tracer low. Tracer low.
More here by the mini
I'm
health.
going.
Now, this was a pretty interesting fight, actually. Let me break this down for you guys. So the enemy team, their
I
Reinhardt,
have bomb.
they want point presence because they want to be able to stand on the point and make you fight into them. That's one of the things Reinhardt's good at when you're fighting for control of a point. So he's walking in, he's trying to claim space on the point. He's swinging his hammer to make you guys back up. Otherwise, you got to stand in his cleave damage. That's how Reinhardt claims space, by the way. You'll notice whenever he wants to initiate a fight, he goes in holding WM1, not WM2. And that's because the whole idea of Reinhardt's kit is to swing his hammer and give the enemies the ultimatum of back up or take the cleave damage. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent. Reinhardt main. So, he's doing his thing. He's trying to claim space, start a fight on the point. He gets a little bit too aggressive. The enemy Moira has to use Coalescence to keep him
I
up.
almost got that too.
Fantastic,
I'm gonna
man.
get it as soon as I get it.
So, of course, he gets aggressive. You get a really nice sleep onto the D.Va. This is an opportunity. So I like what Pores does here. In response to the Coalescence, he uses Primal Rage and jumps into the backline. This is something known as attention splitting, which is if you can get into the backline and distract more than one person on the enemy team, it doesn't matter if you don't get a kill, because that's people who are not fighting in the team fight. So basically, Pores doing that, he can keep both of the healers out of the fight long enough for your DPS to clean up the enemy tanks.
D.Va slept.
And I believe that's exactly what
Knocking around,
happens.
or so she doesn't kill her guys.
Oh.
Yep.
Tracer low. Tracer low.
So that was a
More
pretty
here,
good
more
play
here,
off of
follow
Pores
me.
there.
I'm going.
Also a great sleep by Cater.
He's right outside the truck. Be careful, Freddy.
Heal bubble. Okay.
Alright, another reset.
Did someone call for a Rick? Thanks.
I can't tell what Lyris is saying, unfortunately. But again, you should be calling. What else are you going to use? Something I had to... I think I successfully drilled into the heads of Lyris and Mango back in Scrub Cup was that on defense, just because you're on defense and defending a point, that doesn't mean that the enemy always gets to initiate into you. The team who initiates the fight has a huge advantage. So on defense, you want to kind of bait them into a position where you can jump on them with your own ultimates. You want to start the fight. It's just because you're on defense doesn't mean the enemy has to push into you, you know? You can push into them just as they're, say, coming through the choke. So, like, put Filth up there and have him nanovisor the second that the team's Reinhardt gets to this little car here, so that all of a sudden he's got access to the enemy team's healers in the back. That would be a great plan. I would do that.
Reinhardt slept.
Shit, my bad.
Never mind.
Watch out, hotel. Watch out, hotel.
See, right now this would be a perfect time to nanovisor. Diva's distracted by Mango, and Reinhardt's not in any position to block the nanovisor. Well, that's why I'm not a Grandmaster. I forgot the enemy team had trance, so my nanovisor plan actually would have failed. It's still what I would have done. It's, have a plan. So technically, if you wanted to have a plan that wouldn't fail, I would say have Diva wait in the hotel and then jump into the backline and start working on the Zenyatta to get him to pop trance. Then as soon as that's done, or even if it's halfway done, have the nanovisor pop, and then you can act out the plan. You got to account for the enemy support ults, but, it's still a plan. You just add an extra step to get rid of the support ults.
Rein slept.
Zen half.
I'm out of bot.
Oh, they're just supported.
No Zen.
Or not, fuck. Anti.
Diva back behind us. Oh, she got me.
Super low.
Get one.
Oh, back.
One by that Morris. We're just stalling.
Soldier, how close to your ult?
I used it.
Okay.
Let's back up and look at just how many ults they
Oh,
used
they're
here,
just-
because it was a bunch. He used a crap ton of ults. Alright, so let's see. You guys Valk. They used trance.
Rein slept.
Zen half.
Alright, there's Death Blossom. So that's two
Oh,
ults
they're
from
just
them.
supported.
No Zen.
Or not, fuck. Anti.
Diva back behind us. Oh, she got me.
There's Coalescence, so that's three ults from them.
Get one.
Oh, back.
One by that Morris. We're just stalling.
Soldier, how close to your ult?
I used
Alright, it was a good attempt at stall. You almost got it to the point where you could potentially retake.
it.
Too bad it didn't work.
They're gonna.
Reaper in the side.
Okay. I mean, we held them down to a minute, so it's pretty decent for us. No, they finally were just playing out damagely.
We all got the good spawn.
Oh no.
Diva down.
So basically, to follow up on that last fight, the reason you lost is because they had more ults than you. I don't think they had a plan going into that push. However, if you had a plan to defend that push, like say the one I suggested where you hide the Diva somewhere at the choke point so that she could sneak back out, bait the trance out, and then you nanovisor, that would have been a great plan. Definitely would have kept them from getting the point that push. Like I'm like 80% sure would have fended them off for another push. So what you could have done to keep it is had a plan in place, basically.
Great kill.
If anybody plays a good fair, you can definitely get away with it right now. A little, but I mean, it's okay. A fair or a Junkrat actually really good right here.
We got Reaper coming in. I'm gonna go get high ground.
I got my own. I'm gonna use it.
Oh, what a
All
purple.
anti.
Ryan down.
This is another this is another example of Poor's good primal rages. That's something I'm noticing actually. Your initiations Poors are actually rather poor. They could use a little bit of work, but your primal rages and your use of them has been really good. Because this Primal Rage right here didn't just save your diva, but it also, you jumped into the back line, you managed to get a frag on the Zenyatta to completely open up the fight. You got a frag onto the Zenyatta, and you clearly made space by doing that. Reinhardt's dead too now, so...
Tracer over here on the right.
That is the play of the century by Worry Pup. I mean, holy crap. Like I said to him last night in Discord, if you're making a highlight reel, this has to go in it. In case you didn't see it, this has nothing to do with coaching, by the way. This is just a really cool play. In case you didn't see it, this Tracer tries to pulse bomb Lyris,
Tracer over here on the right.
and I am 80% sure it would have actually stuck too. Like, if that Tracer knows anything about how to stick pulse bombs, and he knows that you're supposed to track while you're sticking a pulse bomb, that would have stuck. So Worry Pup just saved Lyris' life there, and it was beautiful to watch.
Moira down.
I do what I can.
Diva by himself. Nice.
Let's get you back out there.
I think he could have staggered that diva. I'm not positive. Or at least left her out of mech.
We're not like comp tanks. We peel for our healers.
Just coming to you, Rita.
I've had that problem a little bit, so I'm trying to be a bit more aware of it.
Oh, that was a bad ball.
Oh shit! I didn't even do that.
Get recalled. Using a recall on the left.
Here for shatters.
He went back.
Yeah, there it is.
That's why I didn't want to bubble, man. I didn't want to bubble at all. And
I'm trying to get Ryan.
I must go where I'm needed.
The wasted tack visor there is really a shame, because nano visor is such a good combo. There at this point you again have the issue of maybe the other Zen has trance. I doubt he has transcendence yet though, since it's pretty fast after they capped first point. But I would have saved the tack visor. This comes back to, you should have had a plan. And then, depending on what the plan was, maybe you still could have enacted it down one. If you're down your Mercy, but the plan was to nano visor behind them, by all means, go into it a 5v6. You've got a plan, and it can still work. The Mercy isn't a vital component. But right there, kind of a panic ultimate. I can see how you think it would be helpful, and I'm sure on ladder that works a lot of the time. But in team play, odds are they have ults set aside to deal with that kind of thing. So... yeah, it was a bit of a panic ult, and it could have been avoided if you had a plan in place ahead of time.
I have Nano still.
Just a no recall.
Get in the bubble, get in the bubble, get in the bubble, get in the bubble.
I was gonna drop it on Winston.
Yeah, you
next.
can nano Kyler. He's good with the nano.
I need heals.
No,
Cut.
Kyler.
Thanks,
Fine,
thanks.
Worry Pup.
Diva.
Sorry, we're best friends. We
Right
call
down, right down, right down.
Amora.
I mean, I probably would have valked to res the Winston,
Sorry,
actually.
we're best friends. Worry Pup.
Diva.
I probably would have valked here, resed pores. That said, your DPS are very out of position here. Mango and Filth shouldn't really be alone on the left side right now. You guys should basically... Now, I can't see exactly what happened since Filth ulted and the enemy team used Coalescence, because of course I have Lyris' point of view, and that's what I'm using instead of the top-down point of view. I have a reason for that, by the way. It's like, the way my recording is set up, it's really difficult for me to have both videos playing at once, and I really wanted your comms, so I decided to just use Lyris' point of view. I can't see why Mango and Filth are over there, but sometime between then and now, you guys really should not be here. You should have peeled back here with Worry Pup. At its most basic, you shouldn't be that far up. You're very out of position right now.
Diva.
Sorry, we're best friends. We
Right
call
down, right down, right down.
Amora.
I'm coming. We can stop them before they actually get there.
I'm stuck, I'm stuck.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Homie,
Oh, well,
homie.
where'd
Sorry,
you go?
right
Right here, right here.
Hold on, just back up slightly. Back up slightly.
I'm gonna
Winston,
re-engage
let me
here.
know when you want it, and I'll drop it on you.
Oh, for a general statement on that, instead of not, I shouldn't be saying things like, you're out of position here. No, I should be giving you an actual explanation. You're out of position there because you're out of the reach of your diva's defense matrix, basically. You know, she doesn't have the ability to help you that far up. Whereas if you were playing more defensively back around the corner, you would have been with the diva acting basically as your front line. And that way you could actually be within the range of influence for your Mercy and your Diva. The reason you were out of position is because you couldn't get any support that far up. So try to play within the range of your team's supportive abilities, let's say.
Watch out, Kater.
Get on point, go point.
Reaper's
low.
half. Reaper's half. Ooh. Yeah. Good
Oh, I
nano, good
missed
nano.
up.
I can't get heals on you though, I'm down.
I messed up.
Sorry.
Back up.
Okay.
I
So-
don't remember exactly what I had thought of this fight while I was pre-watching the video. So how many of you are actually there? So Filth is
Gonna
down.
re-engage.
Just let me
here.
know when you want it.
So
I'll
at
drop
best
on you.
right now it's a 4v6,
Watch
but the
out,
other
Kater.
team is down a Diva mech.
Get on point, go point.
Yeah, at that point, it's that close,
Reaper
it's
low.
kind of panic
Reaper's
mode, you just gotta throw bodies on
Yeah.
point. That's what you
Good
I
do.
nano,
messed up.
Using the
I
Winston
can't get
nano
heals on you
boost
though, I'm
here,
down.
not a bad
I messed
idea,
up.
but also
Back
it's a
up,
shame that you
back up,
wasted the
back up.
nano boost, because again, nano
That was a
visor.
beast. That was
I wouldn't blame you for panic nanoing there, though. I probably would have.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. We can stop some time.
I'll have it too. See if we can get it.
Oh shit, my Nick.
Nice stick. Get in.
Nice stick.
Get in.
That is a very good stick from Mango.
Nice on the left.
Oh, I need heals, thanks.
Really, really small thing. You have your ult, and you know Cater Tot doesn't have hers. Let Cater Tot heal up Winston for like the extra 20% ult charge that it'll give her. It's a very, very tiny thing, but you know, it's a scrim, so there's no need to pad your stats, you know? Give her the free ult charge. Actually, I didn't dissect that fight at all.
Nice stick.
So
stick.
Ryan gets over aggressive, Mango sticks him with the pulse bomb.
Nice on the left.
Oh, I need heals, thanks.
Pores. I didn't have a good view of the Primal Rage. It looked like he was basically using Primal Rage the same way he has before, though, which is good. So it looks like you got a pick and they disengaged, which is great for you.
I'm gonna get into the side room.
Did someone call for a hit?
Oh, quite a few of them anti.
Sort of another waste of bubble, because, yeah, that is just exactly what I was going to say. I was about to say sort of a waste of bubble, because you know the enemy Reinhardt has Earth Shatter.
I'm gonna get into the side room.
So if you waste that bubble, there's nothing stopping him from shattering everybody. Actually, that is a good overarching statement. Pores, if you are playing main tank, it is your responsibility to track the enemy Reinhardt's Earth Shatter. It is your responsibility to do that. Whenever you are playing something that can block it, you should also be tracking the enemy Reinhardt Earth Shatter. Because if you cannot block it, your team needs to be aware that that's about to happen so that they can play at angles that are easy to avoid the shatter from. Because you jump in here,
Oh, quite a
this is
few
a
of them anti.
really, really bad... I don't know if you're trying to initiate, I don't know if you're just dropping bubble to keep yourself alive. This is really, really bad bubble placement. And of course it gets shredded immediately, then the Reinhardt sees an opening and he takes it. And gets a really nice fat shatter.
Shit. Oh shit.
Now they're all pressing Q.
All their ults.
This is kind of panic mode, yeah. You didn't really have too much of a choice with the
They don't
Valk.
know. Okay. Almost got this in, crap.
See, at this point, I would do something called switching to stall, which is something my team does. Whenever the enemy team is on like their last push and it looks like they're about to get it in, have one of your DPS switch to Mei, and potentially have the healers switch to the most mobile healers they can. So like, or just in general, you want everybody on the most mobile heroes. So that means, you know, you want Winston, you want Diva, you want Mei, Tracer, Mercy, and either Moira or Lucio. And, you know, that's a good stall comp, something to just sit on the point and whittle down the time. Because, you know, at this point, it's looking like they're probably going to cap the point because you're down 2. You have to contest this before everyone's regrouped. So, you know, either make a Hail Mary or switch to a stall composition with a Mei. Oh, and by make a Hail Mary, I mean, like, just, like, sometimes when we're in this sort of position on my team, we'll just Hail Mary it and, like, I'll just jump onto the point and press Q as Reinhardt, and I'll just go for a crazy shatter, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but, you know, it's the end of the game, so what are you gonna do, right?
The wonders of modern medicine.
I slept 4 anti. I'm on
Big bomb, big bomb.
Hey, was that their own big
Let's
bomb?
go. Use your ult.
My ult's almost up when I come back in.
Finish kills, right?
Reaper low.
Fuck. He's low.
And Diva.
Steve out of me.
So let's take a second and look at how
Yeah,
exactly
they're
you managed to clear them
Big
off.
bomb.
So the Diva Bomb, you throw it, catches the Zenyatta off guard. That is a lucky pick here for right before you initiate this fight. There, Diva does the same thing, hoping to catch someone out.
Yeah,
Catches
they're on big
Kato
bomb.
out. So this is still a 5 versus 5. Filth gets a frag onto the Moira, which is pretty clearly mechanical.
My ult's almost up when I come back in.
So as to say that there's, you know, no tactics that I could tell you that would improve your chances at this point.
Come back in.
Finish kills, right?
Reaper low.
Fuck. He's low.
And Diva.
Steve out of me. Steve's out of me.
Low. GG.
That was really good, actually. That was really good playoff of you guys. You got a lucky pick with the Diva. Unfortunately, Catertot also got picked from the other Diva Bomb. But from there, I mean, it was a 5v5 and you mechanically fragged out and beat them, which is very impressive. That's me clapping. Props to you. Your target calling and priority was very good. You isolated the Reaper as a threat and you focused him down really effectively. Then you turned on the Diva altogether. Well done. That was a good fight.
Leave her be.
We can leave her.
She suicided.
Oh, never mind.
Good attempt at leaving the Diva out of mech. Would have been a great call this late in the game.
Oh, never mind.
I don't actually need healing.
Play up here.
You can nano either me or Winston.
I
Either
mean, I
one
have
will
fun
work.
once in a minute.
That was another waste of bubble. You know, again, you should be initiating onto them with it. You shouldn't just be dropping it like a Reinhardt shield unless you have to. The lack of bubble,
Tell me when
the
you-
lack of bubble is really going to hurt you in this fight.
Tell me when you want it, Winston.
We should engage.
Right here.
That's true. Exactly. Mango called it right there. We should engage. He's right. If you hadn't pushed into them right now, if you had your bubble, if you had initiated just then, you would have gotten, more likely than not, I should say, you would have gotten at least 1 or 2 frags, and then you could probably have mechanically rolled through them.
Engage. Go.
Ryan anti.
Dead.
Oh, I killed. Care for payload. Payload too.
Oh my gosh.
That is unfortunate. That is a well-timed ult by the Reaper. Let's see. Could you have done anything about that? So right now you're only down 1. The other team's down 2. This is genuinely a great time to Valk. This is the right call.
Care for payload. Payload too.
He catches you out. I mean, unless you were technically, you could have had the game sense to realize, hey, the Reaper's there. He has ult. It's not safe for me to go in and res Mango right now. Technically, that could have saved your life, but that is, I mean, that's a lot to ask of an Overwatch player. I probably wouldn't have done that. So that's fair play. Unfortunate. Got you and Worry Pup.
Oh my gosh. coming back.
Reaper's off the payload. On Diva,
Smack him
Diva, Diva,
off.
Diva.
Jump in there real quick. What? I
I
was
was
in
in the
your
bubble.
Reaper's
It
low.
fell in the bubble, but
Damn.
I'm touching still. Oh, I died.
Did you just hit it off the back?
I think you probably could have rezzed Mango a little bit sooner. Or at least I would have tried to res Mango
touching
like
still.
immediately. I would have been like, alright,
I
give me
died.
that res.
Did you just hit it off the back?
Specifically because they're all running away from the Diva Bomb. So actually, that's a general tip I can give. Diva Bomb is something called a zoning ultimate. I should actually put together a list of all the zoning ultimates. What a zoning ultimate means is that it can be used to force the enemy to change locations, to stop paying attention to whatever they're doing and move somewhere. Clear a path or claim space automatically for your team, that kind of thing. So basically, it zoned the entire enemy team into down here and down here. It made an opening here for you to come and res Mango. Unfortunately, you didn't take it.
It looked like that thing went backwards.
good purple.
Get the diva out of it.
I got killed by Tracer. Tracer
I'm
behind
out.
you.
Nice.
Starting over from the beginning.
Alright. Close one.
I think you just forgot you didn't have res available there, which is too bad.
Close one.
I was gonna channel my inner Taimu and come out as shit.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Or we get it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Keep forgetting Junkrat exists. Hate that guy.
But in better news, who's excited for the new event? Yay!
They're all hiding back here.
So this is really, really good. This is some very aggressive space claiming that Pors does here. He sees that there is an opening on the point. There's a vacuum.
hiding back
Immediately he jumps in, places the bubble to fill it. That's a really, really good bubble placement actually, because it automatically gives your team point control. Your DPS and tanks can now stand on the point safely. That's what point control is. So that's good bubble placement.
Right,
Triple tank with a punk.
Mercy's half, Mercy's half.
I can't play Winston into this.
You can play Winston into this. Your bubble placement was good there, all right? Your initiation was actually very poor. So if your intent was to establish point control, you did that successfully, and it's unfortunate the rest of your team was not able to capitalize. However, you only established point control. You didn't jump into the back line or anything like that. You kind of placed the bubble and then didn't have the support to stay there, which is unfortunate. I think you made the right call by trying to immediately claim the point.
Triple tank with a punk.
Mercy's half, Mercy's half.
Yeah, jumping back in there was the mistake. It's not that you can't play Winston into this. You totally can. Although if they're running triple tank with a Roadhog, you probably shouldn't. But again, you totally can. So to reiterate, yes, you can. I don't blame you for not wanting to, but that their comp isn't the reason you died there. It's because you jumped in again way too early.
Half.
I can't play Winston into this.
This is a perfect example of when you should be damage boosting Worry Pup to get his mech back.
Oh, Mercy low. She's one.
Yo, let's get a. We can get
Heal me, heal me.
ABG
You got picked.
Yo, let's get a.
Oh, Mercy low. She's one.
Yo, let's get a. We can get
Heal me, heal me.
I think that's a combination. This kill feed right here is a combination of dumb luck and Worry Pup's good aim. I think he just mechanically pulled 2 picks out, which is, great. Good for you.
ABG
You got picks. You got picks, you got picks.
It was unbelievable Cater Top managed to last that long. This is a good res here because you're about to start the fight. The enemy is down 3 at this point. This is the perfect time to res him and immediately get back in the action.
What the fuck?
Lucio
I
low.
got hooked. I
We got this. We got this.
forced,
We got this. Baby.
Once
And once it was a 6v3, you know, obviously you just mechanically beat them in the 6v3. So
Roadhog's still in the hotel. Oh no, he's down.
Nice.
Soldier low. Nice.
Nice.
Tyler with the clutch picks.
let's pay homage here to Mango's terrific play.
Oh,
The beautiful play that I described earlier, if I remember correctly.
this is kind of. I got a 3 kill, but this is pretty bad. Not gonna lie. I lost track of Zed.
I got that one for you.
All right. Okay, that's bothering me. There we go. All right. That looked like a really good game. You seemed pretty evenly matched with the other team. The other team's ult management was very, very poor. You guys' ult management was definitely better, although it could have been even better than it was if you had made specific plans for ult fights rather than mechanical fights, that kind of thing. Overall, a list of things you need to work on from here. Lyris needs to damage boost more. Pores, you need to work on your initiations, making them cleaner and more effective. If you would like some help from me on that, I would be happy to provide it. Mango and Filth need to keep a better eye on where the rest of their team is, and in general need to be more careful about how they use their ultimates. I know it's very easy as a DPS to see, oh, 4 people in front of me, I don't see a tank in my immediate field of view, I'm going to hit that Q button. But sometimes you need to have a little bit more self-restraint than that. For Cater Tot and Worry Pup, let's see, I'm trying to remember, I'm blanking. I think there was something. I'm sorry. I'll review my own video later and give you like a list of things to work on if you want. But as a team, remember that if you have a plan to initiate the fight, you have a much better chance of winning. And a plan doesn't have to be like, let's use 3 ultimates. A plan can be as simple as Winston, get on their Zenyatta and distract him while we brawl with the rest of the team. You know, that's a plan. That's better than having no plan. Overall, fun game to watch. Fun game to break down. Yeah, there's your VOD review. Enjoy.